submissions. To the cream of the crop, the excitement was high, and optimism exaggerated. Then there was a second tier, less prestigious houses, which meant less advance money and considerably less budget for promotion. Once I got it published, which I still assumed I would, the slow morphine trip continued as more rejection letters sluiced through Evelyn's New York office and were shunted to me in LA. Bringing up the rear was the third tier, boutique houses on the periphery, seeking a home run, and a move into the second tier, short on vanity presses and the internet self-publishing venues. This was where Evelyn disembarked and moved on to the BBD, bigger and better deal. We were clinging to tattered ribbons, and we both knew it. Great, I replied, almost not wanting to hear the qualifications for fear they would put damper on my excitement. He's passing it to the other senior editors to read over. I'm expecting a decision toward the end of the week. Of course, he recommended some revisions. Of course, I replied, a publishing deal would certainly have that galvanic effect on me. Evelyn laughed heartily, the callous laugh of a hard-working agent who wasn't getting any younger. So, we're in pretty good shape, she said. I've got my fingers crossed. Terrific, I replied, glancing at my watch. I'm getting ready to take off for a little trip. Oh, where? San Ynez Valley, an hour north of Santa Barbara, the poor man's Napa, Sonoma. My friend Jack is getting married, and we're going to go out in style. It's research for my next book, I added. Sounds like a blast, she said. Are you writing anything new, Miles? Well, I begun haltingly. I glanced around at the rejection letters, thumbtacked to my walls, their stinging words glaring reminders of why I had been unproductive recently. Of course, there was also the divorce, the dwindling bank account, the renewed wave of panic attacks, the loss of my film agent to the St. Vitus dance, and the sudden departure of a short-lived girlfriend who couldn't put up with my occupational moodiness. I've got something brewing, I said finally, something epic. Well, keep writing, she encouraged, and I'll call you when I hear something. We signed off and I stood still for a moment, 100 thoughts crisscrossing in my head. I had almost given up on the book for dead. 2 years down